Yo, everyone! Welcome back to a brand new Techish. It's your favorite hosting duo, Abadesi of Hustle Crew, and
Michael Bahane or Brahane, as people tell me to say my surname correctly, from Pocket and POC IT. Let's go. I'm excited.
oh, let's talk about failing up. Our favorite white man in tech, failing up. Adam Neumann of WeWork is back with
Damn.
another co-working space, co-living space called Flow in Saudi Arabia that managed to raise $350 million from Andreessen
Damn.
Horowitz in 2022. This is after WeWork filed for bankruptcy last year, as you know, famously crashed and burned. Still haven't watched the show. Have you watched the show?
Yeah, I love it.
WeCrashed.
WeCrashed is
I
essential
need to
watching
check
for
it out.
the sexual audience, and you got to watch it.
So yeah, Techish was once Techish. WeWork was valued at 47 billion. Eventually made it down to bankruptcy. But I kind of just wanted to talk a little bit about this concept of cancel culture, failing down, failing up. It seems like there's like a certain type of founder who just can't be held back. And they tend to look a certain way. If you're curious about like Flow's business model, by the way, it's co-living. So work, live, play. $3,500 a month to rent one of these units. It includes
Damn.
hotel style services. And the opening included an Aztec themed hot chocolate ceremony and tote bags branded with the words, "Holy shit, I'm alive." So he's obviously still got a taste for the finer things. I guess he's got money to burn. But how is it that we see certain folks in the startup ecosystem just given second, third, fourth, fifth chances over and over again?
Yeah, I think with Adam Neumann, he basically holds the line to a point where it's not a scam and he's able to get fantastic returns for his early investors. So if you joined WeWork as an investor at the early stages, you probably, liquidated your position along the way, probably along the way up until the 20, 30, $45 billion mark. The people who genuinely got screwed were the employees who had equity probably at $20 billion valuation, thinking that they were going to 2x their position and whatever.
Yeah.
And I actually know for a friend of a friend, somebody who thought they were going to be a millionaire as an early WeWork employee, and it ended up, not working out for them. So with Adam Neumann, he's able to reward his early investors, and I think that consistently gives him a chance. But to be honest, yeah, I think that's the only explanation. But listen, he's a, if it was me personally, I don't think I could ever come outside again and do something like this, because you got to realize that he was forced out of WeWork and was given, I think, a few $1 billion. That is now more than what WeWork is today pretty much valued.
Crazy.
So if that was me, if I was to be like, okay, I walked off with billions and this company basically ended up being a big
Sold
nothing burger.
For 450 million. Yeah, a fraction
exactly
of that.
Right. Yeah, fractionally that. And then my employees didn't get made whole. I would just feel guilty. I would be like, yo, who didn't get made whole? Let me go and give you something. Let me donate to charity. I wouldn't try and run the same play again. We know product market fit. We know founder market fit. I feel like he's found like founder scam fit, like where it's like, I know the scam that I'm going to do every time. And it's going to be around like community, but in a really like capitalistic way, where it's like, you're going to pay 5K for this community. And, we're going to reinvent housing, and we're going to reinvent school, and we're going to reinvent working, all these things that have existed up until now that pretty much are working and are okay. They're not something where we're sitting around thinking the way we work needs to change. I didn't think that, you know what I'm saying? So yeah, I think he's found a scam fit. So shout out to him if he can run that play. And to be honest, if more investors want to give him dough and end up risking getting finessed, like Masayoshi-san with the, who's the one that gave him the billions at the later stage. Yeah, SoftBank.
Yeah,
then,
does that guy still have a job? My gosh. So curious then, based on your thesis, you're saying that there is still some value scam or whatever you want to call it for people that get in early, I guess selling on the secondary market or whatever. There is 3,000 more apartments in the pipeline to be built over the next few years. Flash forward 10 years, what's happening with Flow, this new startup? Is it thriving? Is it crashing? Is it even still around?
I think it might be around, but with a dramatically reduced valuation from the peak, which is what he specializes in. He's a great salesperson. He's able to like drum up valuations. He's able to drum up FOMO to get into certain rounds. So I think what's going to happen is it will get to a certain high valuation. Then probably there will be some sort of credit crunch where maybe it's harder to build property, whatever, and the valuations of the property are not worth as much. And they have to downsize, and he'll leave, and he probably would have liquidated along the way. So I think it's going to be the exact same playbook.
Okay, interesting. Well, let's see what
Prediction.
happens. Okay,
Yeah,
watch this space. From the world of tech to the world of pop culture, have you been watching HBO Max slash BBC iPlayers Industry?
I have. I went back, rewatched season one, which I hadn't seen for many, many
Oh,
years.
throwback.
And then I went and basically binged season two and three. I saw a lot of like
Mm.
commentary on Twitter or X and Instagram and TikTok about it. I was like, okay, let me go back. Because I enjoyed the first season, but it
The
wasn't
first
like,
season was crazy.
first season was crazy, but it basically was very much like a young adult drama, lots of sex, lots of, finance related shenanigans, but it wasn't necessarily something where I was like, this is like Succession level, or this is like Atlanta
Mm.
level, or this is Soprano level. But
And
when I
then
came
season
into two
two.
and three, season two and three, I was like, they took it up a notch. They clearly have ironed out the kinks, and like the writing was superb. Great show. What is the show for people that don't know actually? Because maybe people have never even know what we're talking about.
So the premise of Industry, starting from season one, is giving you insight into the high stakes, highly competitive world of investment banking, and it's staged across like a cohort of young people who have entered this grad scheme. And I think it's like the very first episode, the pilot, where a member of the leadership team kind of says, look around you, because only one of you is going to make it. Only a few of you are going to
Mm-hmm.
make it. So from the very beginning, they are told that they are dispensable. They are here to make money. They are here to succeed. And this is really just like a snapshot into this high stakes, fast moving world where people come from various levels of privilege and on any given day are making trades in the hundreds of millions and billions. This is a world where money is literally just a number on a screen.
Mm-hmm.
It's a real sort of yeah, it's just something so far removed from most of us on our everyday world, unless, of course, you work in investment banking or VC or something like that. But yeah, it's also set in London, which is exciting, the city. And yeah, I mean, I think every season kind of has its own characters that dominate the story. And what was really interesting in season three is that you actually were able to see episodes almost dedicated to different characters and their arcs. Spoiler alerts ahead. So if you haven't watched Industry, maybe like fast forward a few minutes. But Michael, I'm curious, what was the standout episode of the latest season for you, or a standout
Oh,
character?
this is the problem with binge watching a show. You don't grab like the title of each episode or what
Yeah,
is each
yeah,
episode about.
yeah.
But standout moments, I loved the bit where Harper basically, this is probably season two, where Harper basically does the trade with the kind of Bill Ackman type character, the billionaire, and
Oh, Jesse.
she hunts him down on the
Yeah.
tennis court, pitches him the idea, then he decides to give her a chance, and she calls him. He's like, "Listen, I want this position now." And there's a lot of tension, there's a lot of drama. You might not even follow what's going on, but the music and the acting, and it really
Yeah,
like
so
really
good.
gets you. Um, I think that was one of my favorite moments. I think obviously we talked about a moment where a certain character gets shot, and we're like, "What the hell is happening? Like, what are we watching
Mm.
right now?" And I think also there's a moment where I think Harper sleeps with like Rishi on his wedding day, and like
In the
that was the moment
bathroom
when I was
at
just
the
like,
wedding reception.
that's when I was like, there is no good people on this show. There's no one here of any moral
You
worth.
were rooting for
They're all
everybody black
terrible. I
until
was no, I
until
wasn't.
the
No, you know
fucking
what?
scene.
Like, I respect how they wrote Harper to be an absolute sociopath. Like, and I think it's very. I think in the hands of a lesser writer, it's very easy sometimes to basically make the minoritized characters to basically almost be not angels, but like in a way where they're not fully human. There's like, oh, like they're being on the
Mm,
receiving end of like racism, which is real, sexism, which is real.
yeah,
But then you don't also show that sometimes you can be a victim, but also still be a terrible person. Like you can still be a
yeah.
victim of those things and have those barriers, but also you're a human being and you can be a sociopath too. And she is absolutely a fantastic character because of those reasons. Like you wouldn't trust that at all. Like she's crazy, but like at the same time, very engrossing. The other thing I want to say about the show, what I really, really like is that because it's so well written, because it's so engrossing, it's actually a highly diverse show. Like you've got a black
Mm,
woman as the lead character, you've got an Asian American guy, you've got a South Asian guy, you've got multiple people with multiple identities, whatever. And the right wing press or right wing critics would be like, if it was a bad show, they would be like, oh, look at this woke nonsense. But they can't say that because the show is so well written that they've managed to get basically a super diverse show,
yeah.
and it's not framed in that way. Like BBC and HBO haven't tried to marginalize the show and say, this
Mm,
is our black show, this is our this show. They can't, because the show is so good. I know that
yeah.
one of the writers is actually it's a young black man as well. So like like kudos to him for managing to write a show that on the face of it isn't necessarily about kind of diverse experiences or whatever, but he's managed to kind of shoehorn it in alongside the actual,
But I think it's
subject matter,
realistic,
and
isn't
and
it?
it's realistic. It's realistic, but the thing is, that's not
Because
something
if
that we
you go
see on
to,
TV.
oh, right, I see. Yeah, because,
Yeah,
if I think of the types of people I was at LSE with, a lot of whom were, in those
sociopaths.
situations going, I'm not, well, maybe,
Sociopaths.
but, they're the people that like did the Goldman Sachs, Morgan Stanley, JP Morgan, whatever, Merrill Lynch grad schemes. Some of them went on to stay in investment banking. Um, if you walk around Canary Wharf, you are going to see different kinds of people there. Look, greed cuts across every identity group. It's
Yeah.
not like one particular race is like greedier than the other. And like, I think what's really interesting about the show, and I see this a lot also in tech, right? High stakes world. What's the appeal of being in a high stakes world? High rewards, right?
Yeah.
And however you measure that reward, whether it's purely financial impact or whatever, like you're there putting your skin in the game because you want something. And I think what's really nice about industry is that it shows the like flexibility of our morals, our values when we're presented with the thing that we want. So
Mm.
yeah, really, really cool. I love the moral dilemmas, and it's just funny. There's a lot of comic relief as well.
Yeah, 100%. Definitely a techish recommend. Go watch that, please, everyone.
Cool. Okay, so let's come back to the world of tech. You're a software engineer.
Apparently.
Do men code better than women?
You know what? So I came across this fantastic bit of research and video
Yeah.
that looked at, it was a study that looked at the difference between men's code and women's code. Obviously, the inclusion of women in the tech industry has been problematic. It hasn't happened at the rates that we would like to see. So somebody said, let's do the research and say, like, do men code better than women? Can we actually tell the difference between those pieces of code? And the reason why that research is brave, whenever you do this sort of research, there might have been a chance, and I don't think it's possible, but you just never know. As a scientist, you have to leave open the possibility that
Yeah.
you get the result where it's like, yeah, men are better. And then what do you do with that research? So people don't want to touch these sort of hot button issues around gender, race, understandably so. But obviously, it turned out, what did we expect? Obviously, that there's no difference, so it's one of those things where shock horror, women are people too, like shock horror. And it just leaves no room for doubt. The James Damores, all these guys that wrote these theses about women's brains are different to men's brains, all this nonsense. Yeah. And yeah, there's no excuse. Like, what's your thoughts on this? As a non-coder, but obviously as a woman, like when you saw a woman in tech as well, when you saw this, like
you
when I sent
haven't
this to
seen my
you.
Ruby on Rails?
Oh yeah, actually you did try to learn to code.
Yeah.
But the app crashed and it stole my money, stole my credit card details.
Use some CSS and HTML. I grew up in the 2000s internet, so I had a
MySpace
site.
Yeah, the MySpace page.
Watch me format. Watch me do some front end stuff.
Okay.
But no, in all seriousness, what do I think about this? It's interesting because I remember going to a talk. Was it Girls Who Code, Black Girl Tech? One of those amazing communities in the 2010s in London. And there was a lot of women software engineers talking about, whether or not men and women write code differently. And people were talking about how maybe where it could be most obvious to find a difference is in like documentation and actually like explaining things around like the product and being more of like a human-centered approach in how that's done, or like any kind of like flair that gives personality. But as far as code, no. But that's where I first heard of écriture féminine, like feminine writing, and this idea of writing in a way that's like different to how writing has historically been done. So you might follow like a different like structure, you might follow different use of punctuation and grammar and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, I think as someone who does a lot of bias training, we still have so many outdated like gender stereotypes or like harmful narratives that to me are just like so friggin' lazy. Like the amount of people that come to me and they're like, oh, okay, I've got like 2 women on my engineering team of 80. And it's not because we haven't tried, there's just women don't study engineering, and like women don't code, and we really, really tried and we haven't found any. I'm like, okay, if you really, really tried and you haven't found any, how come I'm looking at your competitor's company page and they have 40% women or 50%? Like someone's trying harder than someone else. So, to us in the space, it might feel like obvious. Oh, like women can code. as good as
Hmm.
men. But there are still, sadly, a lot of people out there who, believe that the reason men rule the world is because they're smarter and better. And the reason there aren't more women CEOs is because we're not smart enough to be CEOs, or we don't want to, because, baking and laundry are just so fun. And raising babies just so much more fun. So yeah, I think it is important for these studies to happen. Whether or not people will listen to these studies is another thing, but we'll see.
Yeah, definitely. Shout out to the researcher.
Okay, let's get back to the world of pop culture while we still have
Mm.
time. And do you remember the Kendrick Drake beef?
I do. I remember getting absolutely cooked in the Instagram comments of our account because I said that. I think I said that Drake actually is my preferred artist in terms of if I had to sit there and listen to the entire corpus for the rest of my life, I probably would prefer Drake because he can get me to the
And
party
and
mood
you're
and whatever.
saying it again.
I mean, listen, I'm brave and I'll stand on my opinion. I still think Kendrick is one of the greatest artists of all time and I love his music. I'm not saying I don't want to live in a world where I have to choose. That's all I'm saying in it. But I'm saying that I probably would
Oh,
prefer to listen to Drake sometimes. But
how
that's me.
magnanimous of you.
Whatever. Shout out to everyone. But the
Well,
thing is, this is what, hold on, let me think. Everyone's pretending that they don't like Drake no more. This is the thing. I'm not from
I know
this
when
new
that
school
hotline
world.
bling.
Listen, I'm not from this new school world where I'm going to pretend what my views are because of what the social media ethos is
Wow.
right now. So anyways, I digress. As you were, sorry, apologies.
Bruh, like passion fruit, banger. Take
Mm-hmm.
care. Let's go old school
Mm-hmm.
Drake. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's a tune. And you know
Nothing was the
what?
same.
I really hope uh Aubrey is listening, actually, because according to new reports, he's been quite lonely since the beef. So, in what can only be described as irony, the man who declared no new friends is actually on the hunt for new friends.
So yeah,
He,
so he basically was at a concert and did a diatribe where he basically was bemoaning the fact that like there's no real friends in the industry, and I think he's hurt by the amount of people that kind of left him by the wayside during the whole Kendrick beef. People that actually were dancing with Kendrick on stage that he thought were friends of his, and so now he's really hurt. But I think from the outside, it always appeared to me that Drake was somebody who was a bit transactional with his relationships. He would jump on certain songs when the song was hot. He would really like to, stand next to people who were really, also got some heat, whatever. So I never saw him
that's
as the
the
type of guy. Just from that,
industry.
that's
That's
the
the
industry. So,
game.
but then when when you're doing those kind of fair weather industry relationships, then don't be surprised when the wind blows in a different direction and you're no longer the cool hot property, like that people don't stand next to you. That's what it is. Like, it's something that on a microcosm, on a tiny level, which I can
Mm,
sort of relate to in a sense where like any friends that I make now that I'm basically a
famous.
small micro, there we go, a small micro celebrity within the kind of like, oh, I'm a founder, I'm known as a founder, I'm known as an investor. Like when people come to me through that context, I
Ooh.
understand that they're coming to me through that context, and that is not the same as somebody who's a friend of mine that I knew from school who knew me
Hey,
when basically I was shit.
I knew you before you had 10,000 followers. Okay,
Yeah, I
remember
know,
that.
right? I know, right? Listen, when you get 10K followers, doors just open for you, innit? You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't even
I
remember
knew
your
you.
name no more.
I
Who
knew
are you,
you before.
Abadesi?
I knew you before Soho House membership.
Basically, innit? So those, I know how ridiculous I sound, don't get twisted, like, but those things where, like, if I knew somebody from school and I knew somebody, like, now let's say they came and pitched me as, to get some investment, I understand
Mm,
what the dynamic is. Like, I understand that I'm here to bring value. I understand that, if I all of a sudden have no value to bring, that I'm not going to sit there and rely on you and say, like, yo, like, let's catch up. It is what it is. Do you understand what I'm kind of saying? In a sense where, like,
yeah,
I'm sure in your world, people come to you for value, and there are people that come to you
yeah,
for just who you are.
yeah.
And
I
the
actually
confusion
had
is what gets people hurt.
oh yeah, totally. But this is the thing. Like, I think sometimes, it kind of goes back to industry as well. Like, you have to be like realistic about the place that you're operating in. Like, one of the things that I found really shocking about industry is that like there's a narrative where someone's basically like being positioned to be the fall guy for like a corporate scandal, and he's like shocked and
Mm,
hurt that the company is willing to do that to him. And I was like, sorry, do you not work at that company? Do you not
yeah.
see how this company is like so amoral on like a daily basis? And now you're shocked that you're on the receiving end of that lack of morality. And in a similar way, I kind of feel that like there are times where, you know, you can be naive up to a point, and then it gets to the point where you're just not paying attention and you're just not listening. And I think that was
Hmm.
my experience like in startup land, where there are times where I was like, oh, I thought they were my friend. Actually, they just wanted something from me. Actually, they just wanted an intro. And I think it's like understandable for you to go on that journey and be like, okay, this isn't like a genuine like connection or a genuine friendship. But then it's on you to like put up your boundaries and be clear about like what you expect from people who actually are your friends. You know what I mean? And this is where things like people pleasing come into it. Like, if someone's not for you, like, why are you replying to their messages? Or like, what, if someone isn't for you, why are you like helping them out? Like, it's almost like a sifting process. You need to sift out like who's like genuinely there for you and who isn't. I feel like I found that out the hard way. Like, I lost my dad during the pandemic, and there were people who were like chasing me for stuff that I was going to collaborate, with them on. And I would literally be like, oh, I'm sorry, I can't get back to you. My dad is dying. I'm in hospital. And they would be like, oh, I'm so sorry to hear that. Can you get it back to me on like Tuesday? And I was like, are you fucking kidding me? And I was like, these are people who I thought were my friends. Like, they'd been to my house, they'd like had dinner with me, like we'd hung out. And I was like, I thought we were like on a level where we were like beyond transactions, and you out here chasing me. And that for me was like it was already a depressing time because of my grief. But like the reaction of people who I thought were friends made it even more depressing, because I then kind of blamed myself for being such a poor judge of character.
I mean, you can't blame yourself. It's just part of the parcel. People will reveal what they are and who they are, and then it's up to you to accept that. But it's like, until that reveal, it's not your fault. You just come into it good-natured, and you expect certain behaviors. And I think where people get messed up is when they start replacing their OG friends with these sort of maybe new friends that come to you because of maybe what you can do for them or who you are. And it's difficult because sometimes those people kind of really massage your ego. Like, they might be like, oh man, like Abadesi, like, you're a great entrepreneur. I really respect you. Can you mentor me? Can you help me? You're so amazing. And then you might go to your OG friends and they're just like, man, pass the salt, man. Shut up. And some people can't handle that. Yeah, some people are just like, oh, you know what, man? I want to feel momentarily good. So let me go around people that are there for the clout, basically. And then when shit hits the fan, when it's a loss of a loved one, when it's real drama, when it's real, you need real help, it's, you see the switch up. But yeah, shout out to Drake. Stay warm out there, Drake. Hug a teddy bear. Man. I'm joking. But, I mean, to be fair, listen, man, as an individual human being, I have not that much respect for him. So I'm just talking about him as an artist, because we've had stories where we talked about underage people and stuff like that. So for all I know, he's an absolute piece of S. So yeah. There we go. On a somber note to add the story.
Oh,
as a micro celebrity with 10K followers, that's my insight.
Well, I actually was I was gonna ask you, because I didn't make it to Black Tech Fest. But do you want to give us your insight? Because sorry I didn't come through, but how was it?
So Black Tech Fest.
Tell us about what it is for folks who don't know, obviously.
Yeah, so I would say Black Tech Fest is like the premier Black tech conference in maybe Europe. You could probably argue, definitely in the UK. It's been going on for a few years. That was actually my first time going, and I'll start with the positives. Obviously, it's beautiful to be in a room with so many like Black technologists. I think there was at least a few thousand people there. You know what I'm saying? Don't get twisted. There were some interesting talks. And to me, the value of these conferences is being in the room and mingling with people. There was a lot of great companies for like a jobs fair if you're looking to get hired, etc., etc. I think my overall experience was a bit clouded by the fact that, like, slightly disorganized. There was a long queue. We were in the queue for like 2 hours, and I think there was teething problem. Yeah, and it was raining, but I think it's teething problems based on the fact that it was a new venue and they had scaled up. So I think it's a teething problem based on success, right? So they went to a very large venue that could host like 10,000 people, and I think the ticketing and the QR codes didn't work, so we were in the queue for ages. But once I got in, it was a great vibe. Nice. I think the other piece of feedback that I was getting when I spoke to people was probably more to do with like the actual content, in the sense that there were a lot of non-tech people there, in terms of like, so there was an amazing talk by Ratman, who was the guy who wrote and directed Supacell, which is a great Netflix show about black superheroes who get their powers from sickle cell, which is a great show. Everyone go watch that as well. But he was there, and people were like, how is this tech related? Basically, and like, how do I get the learning and development budget signed off at my company when they're looking at that lineup? But at the same time, it's like, I get it. You need to get people through the door, and you want to sell tickets. So is there a chance that you broaden the audience? So maybe you get people who may be working in account management at Accenture, even though they're not technically tech, they can still come because they're like, I want to come because Ratman's there. And maybe if you go too deep into the weeds, you get too technical. There isn't, you can't get 3,000 black developers in the room in London. That's too difficult. I don't know. That might be the thinking. But in general, great experience. I think there's a few teething problems there, and I would recommend everyone to go next year. So shout out to Black Tech Fest. And next month, I'm actually going to be in Afrotech. So catch your boy there.
My favorite. Love Afrotech.
And I'm actually doing a brunch on the Saturday, a tech leaders brunch.
Okay.
I'm sponsored by Deloitte. So I will put the link in the show notes. Please apply to join. Just be warned though, obviously it's going to be limited availability. If you're on the junior side, it probably isn't the right space, so you might not get accepted, but don't be mad at me. It's just based on the fact that we're doing a senior leaders brunch. But yeah, in the show notes.
What are the dates?
It's going to be on November 16th. Afrotech is in Houston, which is happening across the Thursday and the Friday. And then on the Saturday, if you're staying around, is when we're doing the brunch. And it's going to be near the venue of the actual conference. So come holler at your boy. Link in the show notes for that.
Nice.
Yeah, baby. We out here.
Woo.
Anything else that you want to discuss before we wrap up?
No.
I think one thing I want to say quickly is Notebook LM, which is a product released by Google recently, is taking the world by storm. I think Google, generally speaking, has like struggled in this AI race. I've always kind of seen it as the company that's been hurt. It's been, you know what, they've made noise, but it's the wrong kind of noises. The products ain't necessarily worked. They had the issue with the Gemini images.
That was awkward. Yes. It was also funny though.
It was funny as hell. And also, if you said to me
Black
strategically,
Nazis, by the way, that was what happened. In case you missed
it. Yeah, if you typed in like founding fathers or Nazis, they were trying so hard to be diverse. It was giving you like black Nazis and stuff like that. But anyways, so the reason why I like this product, Notebook LM, essentially you can upload multiple sources like PDFs, like YouTube channel. I mean the YouTube video, and you can create. Not only can you query it in text and say, okay, what does it say about this? What does it say about that? Which is pretty normal. You can also turn it into a podcast. So you can listen to a podcast, a male and female host talking about what you've uploaded. So let's say, for example, you're a student and you're like, I want to study my exams on company law. You upload all of the case law, whatever, and it can be turned into a podcast. Some people have used it for their diaries. They've uploaded their personal diaries and heard back to them a podcast discussing their own personal diaries. You know what? I think, listen, educationally wise, it's never been a better time to be a student. I'll be honest with you. Because I remember thinking to myself, I can't be bothered to go through these books. If I could just turn it into a podcast as I'm walking to university, I can just listen to the lecture like that in a podcast format. Wow. Okay. That's next level. 2, also onboarding employees. You can imagine, onboarding employees, onboarding customers. You can turn your kind of frequently asked questions into a podcast potentially. The possibilities are endless. And for the first time, I'm happy to see that Google is doing something, really cutting edge, because I feel like up until now, as a strategic player in AI, they've been hurt the most, because I feel like the value of Google search has gone down relative to things like Perplexity, relative to ChatGPT. So Notebook LM, check that out, everyone.
The game's changed.
Game done changed. All right, cool. We'll leave it at that then.
Oh, yeah, go on. I was just going to say, the thing about Google is with DeepMind and stuff, there's obviously such incredible applications of machine learning, but because it's B2B, like healthcare or energy, we don't hear about it. So I think it's also the B2B play versus the B2C play, whereas as a consumer product, you just on an individual level more aware of things.
Yeah, definitely. All right, everyone. That's week's Techish. Hit us up at Techish Pod, Instagram, Twitter. Follow our YouTube. Come on, man. We're almost 1,000 subscribers.
I know you're on YouTube, so why aren't you watching us there? Also, the pod on YouTube, so much more exciting. You can see the facial reactions and all that stuff.
Come check out our micro celebrity on YouTube, and we'll catch you next week. All right, peace, love everyone.
Bye.
Ciao.